Today, we are talking all about eczema and leaky gut. What is leaky gut? Well, we're going to talk about this today because leaky gut could be fueling your eczema. We're going to talk about how can you identify if you have leaky gut and how do you fix it? That is the big question, right? And leaky gut's so important because it's actually really up there in terms of my list of reasons why people have eczema, but also just inflammatory conditions in general, allergies, etc. Leaky gut is really on the top of my list, right next to microbiome imbalances. And these two are actually related. So, this is a big topic. If you have eczema, to me, this is almost inherent that if you have eczema, you likely have leaky gut. The scientific term is intestinal permeability, but we like to call it leaky gut. It's a little easier to say. So, let's start here. When we're talking about eczema really are just symptoms. And I want you to think of those symptoms as just an alarm system, right? And these symptoms are really just a reflection that there's a problem underneath. And leaky gut is one of these big problems that we can come across. And when we talk about intestinal permeability, we're talking about that permeability of the gut mucosa. And that is basically the skin in the gut lining. And this is where that gut gets leaky, where the cells of the gut should be really close together. There should be tight junctions. And instead, there's so much inflammation that occurs there. And we'll talk about why in a minute. And then we get these leaky junctions instead. And there is a lot of research that backs this up, especially with people with eczema and allergies. Because what happens, and we'll go back to the picture here if you're watching this, is that you see that these junctions have separated. The cells are getting farther apart. And now you're having leakage of pretty much anything you're exposed to, and that gets into your gut. So, foods, even toxins can leak through the system. These are particles that we aren't used to. So the body says, "Hey, what is this? This is an invader, and I don't know what this is." So then your body creates an immune reaction to it. And eczema essentially is the accumulation of a lot of inflammation and immune reactions that then create this itchiness, this inflammation on our skin. And we also see that that is correlated with the inflammation in the gut. So there really is truly a skin gut axis. There is research that backs all of this up. So we see that there's intestinal permeability in patients with eczema and food allergy. And we often see these correlated together. We see that there's increased intestinal permeability in atopic eczema. And so, this is something that we are seeing, and especially in naturopathic medicine, we are really seeing that when we have kids or adults with eczema, we're testing them for leaky gut, and we'll talk about how we do that in a moment. And for the most part, in my practice, I'm really seeing that, 95% of people with eczema, especially the more severe your eczema is, the more likely you're going to have leaky gut. Okay. So, how do we fix these problems? Well, step one, we have to do a really thorough evaluation, all right? And so, leaky gut is one of my top root causes. And if you have not taken my root cause assessment yet, I definitely recommend you do. And you can see if you fill out a lot of the questions there that relate to leaky gut to see if this is something that is an important part for you. And one of the things we want to do is just look at our toilet. What does your poop look like? Are you pooping every day? Are you pooping a type 4 bowel movement, which is basically a nice sausage, brown, sinking to the bottom, easy to pass? Or are you having constipation? Are you having blobby poops? Are you having diarrhea? This can tell us the health of your gut, and it can also indicate whether there could be some leaky gut that's going on. We can do a comprehensive stool analysis. This is a poop test where you're basically collecting your poop anywhere from 1 to 3 days. And then we get so much information. So often, when you're seeing your conventional doctor, you might only be getting a little bit of information from your poop test. You might be getting, okay, do you have a parasite? Do you have H. pylori? Do you have C. difficile? These are bugs that could be growing in the gut. But typically, our conventional doctors are not looking at the health of our gut. And so, when we do comprehensive stool testing, we might look for, are you digesting your food well? Are you maldigesting? Do you have inflammation in your gut lining? Do you have leaky gut? And there are several ways we can see that. Well, there's one particular item that we can check for, which is called zonulin. There's a couple other tests we can check for. There's inflammatory tests that we can check for that will tell us whether you potentially have leaky gut. We want to look for the balance of your gut microbiome. Is there a dysbiosis going on? Is there a metabolic imbalance because you don't have the good bacteria that helps us with our metabolism? And do you have any infections? Do you have any pathogens or potentially pathogenic organisms in your system? So, this is a very comprehensive look at your digestive tract. And we don't do this in conventional medicine. So, a lot of people will come to me like, oh, I've been tested for everything. And then I said, well, did they do a comprehensive stool test? And no, they didn't do that. And this is not something generally done in conventional medicine. Often you'll see this done by functional medicine doctors, integrative doctors, naturopathic doctors, and even nutritionists may look at these types of values. Okay. The next thing you can do, and often we are testing for food allergies, but it is interesting to look at another set of tests called food sensitivities. Now, there's controversy here because a lot of people say, well, there's a lot of false negatives, false positives, and that is actually true because a food sensitivity test is not something that's going to stay the same throughout someone's life. In fact, it can change as you have more of a leaky gut or less of a leaky gut. And that's because of what we talked about earlier, where in a very leaky gut, you're going to have these spaces in between those cells. And you're going to have foods that are leaking through, and you might get reactions, but they may not be necessarily allergic reactions. They actually could be these low level sensitivity reactions that you may even not notice because you eat the food and you don't get a reaction until 3 days later, or you eat the food and that reaction is very low level that it's very hard to tell that you're actually having the reaction. And if we do test somebody and they have so many food sensitivities, often it indicates there's a leaky gut. And if we test a bowel test or a stool test, we'll see that there might be leaky gut as well. So it's another way we can uncover whether there's leaky gut if there's a lot of food sensitivities. Now, it can be really hard if you have eczema. Let's say you've done an over, just you ordered a food sensitivity test and every food came up. Well, we cannot just avoid food, right? And I think that's why it's really good to work with a practitioner because sometimes you're looking at this test and maybe you're a parent with a child who has so many food sensitivities. You're like, I don't know what to give my child. And now you're kind of stuck a deer in headlights. And a practitioner will help you to understand what these mean. Do you avoid everything? Maybe not. Maybe you only avoid the highest allergenic foods and then you rotate all the other foods because you cannot just not give your child food or not eat food yourself, right? And what we need to understand is we need to repair that gut lining. Okay, so there's ways that we can do that. By removing some of those foods and then rotating the others, you're then not giving so much inflammation all at once, and that can really help. And then we hope that we can actually bring the foods back later on, maybe not all of them, maybe not the most allergenic foods, but we can bring most of these foods back and eat a very healthy, what we call clean food diet, which is a very nice balanced diet, where we're not eating the same thing all the time. And we're not eating really pro-inflammatory foods and high toxin laden foods and pesticide laden foods and food dyes and et cetera and processed foods, but we're eating a really great whole foods diet. Okay. So the food sensitivity tests are really great. They can also help us to identify whether there could be leaky gut. And often in anyone with eczema, I am finding that there are multiple food sensitivities and there's leaky gut. Step 2 in the clean body method, after evaluation, and we got to again do a really good evaluation, and that's often really missing in our conventional model, is we got to optimize what we call the pillars of health. And at Clean Body, we have identified 5 pillars. So clean mind, clean food, clean fit, clean enviro, and clean routine. And all of these play a role in your leaky gut. And you might think, well, isn't it only that food is going to play a role in my gut health? Well, no, because every part of your life affects your gut. And your gut is essentially a tube that starts at your mouth. It does a lot of twists and turns and it ends up on the other end. And all of your systems have to do with how well it works. So, of course, we need to eat clean food. And eating clean food, there are some top recommendations that I have. So avoiding things like sugar because that will feed the microbiome in a way where you might then have a dysbiosis, which then can lead to leaky gut. You want to eat the rainbow because when you eat those really colorful fruits and vegetables, you're getting a lot of fiber. You're also getting a lot of nutrients, and those can help to heal that gut lining. You want to see half your plate in these colorful veggies. And often we are not even having any colorful veggies on our plate. So this is can be a big change for some people. You definitely want to eat those high fiber foods because that will help the poop travel through. It'll help clean up the gut and lower that inflammation in the gut. And then eating probiotic rich foods because those probiotics or those beneficial bacteria really help to heal the gut and heal the gut lining. Okay. And then stress has a big place in our gut as well. A lot of our neurotransmitters are actually made in our gut. And so there really is that mind gut connection. And so we do have to work on our stress because stress can actually affect leaky gut. And people don't put this together, but when you get anxious, you get butterflies in your stomach, so to speak. You can see that there is this mind gut connection. Fitness is very important as well because as we move our bodies, we're getting the lymphatic system moving, and we actually have a lot of lymphatic system in our gut that helps to clean the gut. And as a lot of us know too, if we go for a run or we go for a walk, we end up needing to go use the bathroom and have a bowel movement often. And that's because those large muscles of the legs that are moving are just kind of pumping things through and stimulating that peristalsis in the gut and helping us to poop. And so this is a really great way to get that body moving and get that digestive tract moving at the same time. Having a clean routine is important. And what we need to focus on in our routine is that all of our exits are working well and we are drinking enough water. We're getting those bowel movements in. If you are not having daily bowel movements, then you are likely having inflammation in your gut and therefore leaky gut. Okay. So in our routine, we need to breathe, we need to drink water, we need to sweat, we need to poop, we need to sleep, we need to get sun. We just need to do the things that humans are supposed to do. And yes, all of this has to do with leaky gut, which therefore has to do with eczema. Okay. Step 3 of the clean body method is all right, now let's provide some support. And I think that, when we're often thinking about well, how do we treat leaky gut? We're automatically thinking, okay, what supplement do I need to take? And for me, this is third in line. Okay. So, number one, first, let's investigate whether you actually have leaky gut. Let's investigate why you have leaky gut. Is it the food you're eating? Is it you're super stressed out, et cetera? And is it in your life first? And I will say that 75% of the battle is often in your life, something you need to uncover that you're doing on a constant daily basis that's actually causing inflammation in your gut and therefore inflammation in your skin. And then tertiary is we want to think about, okay, now we've done everything that we possibly can in the lifestyle, and now let's think about supplements. And so at Clean Body, there are many supplements and herbs and homeopathy. Maybe we change up your nutrition plan for a little bit. Maybe we do some treatments like colon hydrotherapy that we really like to customize for our patients. But there are a couple of things that we can do and very specifically talk about to heal leaky gut. And I do like to go in phases when I'm actually healing the gut as well, as we don't like to just jump to, oh, you have a parasite, now let's start cleansing. We do want to make sure that the core body is supported those drainage organs are supported, and then we start cleansing if we do find anything we need to cleanse. And so a clean gut protocol that I normally might recommend is really a 4R gut healing program. We first need to remove any offenders that maybe you're eating some allergenic foods, maybe you're doing something else that we need to remove, maybe you're super stressed out. We got to get the stress out of the system. Number 2 on the 4R gut healing program is we got to replace. So we might replace things that are missing. So maybe you don't have a lot of digestive enzymes. Maybe you need some support repairing the gut lining, and we'll talk about what that'll look like. Repair is where we will actually say, okay, let's now repair that intestinal permeability. And finally, we think about probiotics, where we restore that microbiome. And often when you're hearing out there about gut repair, you might be only hearing about taking probiotics. And this is step 4 in our 4 gut healing program. So we need to really do steps 1 through 3 first. And then finally, then we give probiotics, because if we don't have an environment that's really great for probiotics to want to hang out, then those probiotics will just come and go. They won't stick around. They won't make a home, which is what we want them to do. Okay. So, first, we can think about strengthening the gut barrier with lots of different herbs and nutrients, L-glutamine, glucosamine, DGL, aloe vera, slippery elm, marshmallow, okra. These are some great herbs to use. At Clean Body, we do have a product called Gut Men that actually has all of these, but there are a lot of products out there that can be used, and these can be used relatively safely. So these are things that can be used. You want to definitely consult with a nutritionist or a doctor to just kind of confirm that you're okay with taking these, but they can be safe for kids and adults alike, and really great to strengthen that gut barrier. But one of my favorites that I have really, really fallen in love with over the last couple years is called peptide therapy. And for me, this goes one step further in repairing that gut barrier. So, what are peptides? They are short chains of amino acids. These are the building blocks of protein. So, instead of these being kind of longer chains of amino acids, which are proteins, these are shorter chains. These shorter chains kind of act like messenger molecules in the body, and they signal repair, immune balance, and inflammation control. Amazing for eczema. I mean, truly, truly has been really an amazing tool in my practice. And we use these peptides therapeutically to support the gut lining repair and immune modulation. So we also do see that inflammation really comes down when people use these. There are a couple of peptides I really love for leaky gut and eczema. So BPC 157 is the name of one of them. This repairs the gut lining, increases blood flow, and reduces inflammation. KPV calms inflammation in the gut and the skin. And thymosin beta 4 supports tissue healing and immune regulation. All of these not only support the lining of the gut, so the health of the lining of the gut, but they also help to reduce the eczema flares linked to gut damage and immune reactivity. So beautiful in the way that they work. Really, really, really marvelous. And they work really well because it's really targeted support. These are natural. They are supplements that we are using. They can speed up healing when paired with diet and lifestyle changes. So I will say they don't work alone, but when we pair them with everything else we talked about already, they can really work beautifully. And they really, truly get to that root cause. But I have also seen them work, as well as like taking an oral prednisone and lowering inflammation. So just quite phenomenal. They really help, let's say, seal and heal the gut. And therefore, food sensitivities can come down, systemic inflammation can come down. But there are some things to think about, okay? So peptides are generally really safe and well tolerated when they're used properly. but overuse of these can lead to receptor desensitization. That means that if you keep using them for too long or you're using them incorrectly, a practitioner is not watching you as you're using these, then your receptors can become desensitized to them and then they just won't work anymore. Okay. So it is really important to work with a practitioner to use correct dosing, cycling, and combinations. And working with a practitioner ensures that you have long-term safety protocols in place for usage of peptides, okay? Because these can be found, you can purchase these. I would recommend working with a practitioner to get, really trusted brands and not just get any brand that's out there as well, okay? Because you'll see a lot that are out there right now. So, if you're ready to really explore whether leaky gut is something going on with you, I would say start with the root cause assessment. See if leaky gut comes up as one of those top root causes for you. Then, you can consider booking consultation with us. I'll look over that assessment and kind of explain to you, okay, these are the labs we might do. This is the treatment that we might do based on what you've told me so far. And everything gets customized, and I do highly recommend working with a practitioner just because, again, there are things that you can do that are out there. And of course, you can start changing the diet now, some of those recommendations I recommended. But the testing is really key. And then understanding what those tests mean is very important because I think there can be some confusion around I did a food sensitivity test and everything was positive. So I either don't trust it or I just don't know what to do. And I think you can be left in a place where you do testing and then you're kind of a deer in headlights and you don't know what to do and maybe you're more confused or you are, now just feeling like, oh my gosh, nothing is working right in my body. So leaky gut can be healed. Absolutely. I have seen this happen. This happened for me. And I've seen this happen time and time again. And we see these values getting better within 3 to 6 months. And it does take time. I will say that it's not an overnight sensation, but it is definitely something that can be healed. Okay. So if you have eczema and you take the assessment and you see that leaky gut is coming up real high for you, these are some considerations to take in mind. All right. All right, if you're interested in booking a one-on-one eczema consultation, it's called a root cause consultation. Definitely DM me or click the link in my bio. You can use the code LIVE10 for 10% off. We also do have a money back guarantee on that. If you want different resources, just DM me and I can send some resources over. And I'd love to now open it up to some questions. We are talking today about leaky gut and whether leaky gut might be at the root cause of your eczema. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and type into the chat now. And let's see, I'm going to look back a little bit and see if we have any questions here. Will you be addressing how to restore this? So I definitely went over that. And if you missed it, then just reach out to me and I can send you the link to this, or I will be posting it after this as well. And if you guys have any other questions, definitely just type into the chat box. I'm happy to answer any and all questions on this topic. Again, a very important topic. And if you miss commenting here, then definitely just DM me and I'm happy to answer any questions about leaky gut. Okay. I do not see any other questions coming through. But if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask away. And I am on both YouTube and Instagram right now. So either one, if you guys are in either place, definitely just comment and I will see those comments and I will answer those questions. Okay, do meat stalks alone help fixing the leaky gut? Okay, great question. So meat stock is great, and there are absolutely healing properties in your meat stocks and your bone broths. Can it help alone? So the only problem is that there could be so many reasons for the leaky gut. For example, is there a microbiome imbalance? Are you eating foods that are inflammatory for you? Do you have toxic exposure that could be causing the leaky gut? Are you super stressed out? And so just doing meat stocks may not take away those burdens that are causing the leaky gut. Okay. So we have to, again, that first step is investigation. We have to evaluate like what is actually causing the leaky gut. You're jumping already to how do we treat the leaky gut, right? But we have to ask why is it actually happening in the first place? So I would say you start with why is it happening before you think about, well, what can I do to fix it? Okay. Because we need to identify what those problems are. Okay. All right. Other questions. That's a great one. That was a great questions because I do think that we automatically jump to, well, what can I take? What can I eat? What can I do? And sometimes it's about there's a burden on the system that we actually have to remove first. So in that 4R gut healing program, the first R is remove. We got to remove potentially what could be causing inflammation in the gut lining that's causing the leaky gut. Okay. All right. Other questions. And again, we are talking about leaky gut and eczema. Leaky gut may be fueling your eczema. How to identify and fix it is the topic we are talking about today. So let me know if you have any questions. And it says, I missed the first part of this live, and this is for my 17-month-old struggling with eczema and food allergies. Okay. Your child is 17 months. So, if I was going to do a consultation, some of my first questions I would ask are, was your child a C-section baby or a vaginal delivery? A C-section baby is going to have less of a microbiome that's diverse that could lead to things like leaky gut and microbiome imbalance. My next question is going to be, did your child or you have to take antibiotics during labor or in the newborn stage? My next question is going to be, is your child formula fed or breastfed? Often formula fed can have, especially if it's cow's milk, we can have some inflammatory issues there. How did you introduce solid foods would be my next question, because the solid food introduction can be important and it can lead to, potentially seeing more food allergies there. So there's a lot of questions I would want answered. That's what I would do at a root cause consultation, is answer those get those questions answered so I can help you to navigate what the potential root causes are, whether leaky gut's something we need to be thinking about, and what testing we would do. More than likely for a 17-month-old, I would want to run a poop test. Pretty easy to collect. Just collect the poop in the diaper. And then the food sensitivity test, a little harder because that one is either a finger prick or a heel stick or a blood draw. If we can get the blood, that's great. If we can't get it because it's a 17-month-old, then we just kind of focus on the poop. And there are some foods we can actually test through poop as well too. Okay. What's the best way to treat malassezia? Great question. So, what is malassezia for all of you who don't know? Malassezia is a yeast that is commensal to our body. That means that we can have malassezia growing in our bodies, just like candida, and that can be normal, but it is abnormal to have a really high level of malassezia and candida. It is also abnormal to have an allergy to malassezia. So, again, for Curtsy 90, again, evaluation is the first question. Are you actually having a problem with malassezia is my first question. And I would want to do some tests on that. I would want to check if you have an allergy to malassezia. I would want to check your gut microbiome to see what's going on there. And then I would say, okay, where is your eczema located? If it's on your face and your neck, if it gets worse with oils, if it gets worse with sweat, then that could be an indication that malassezia is a problem. And then the next question is, what are you doing to maybe feed that malassezia? Again, we do not jump to treatment yet. We're still talking about evaluating. And are you eating too much sugar? Are you putting oils on your skin that are feeding the malassezia? Are you not showering every day? Because that could lead to the yeast growing a little bit more as well. Do you have mold in your system? So those are the still investigate questions, and whether something in your life you're doing is causing that. Then finally we get to, okay, now let's treat. And then we might think about, okay, let's treat the dysbiosis. Let's get that imbalance of your microbiome balance so that malassezia is not overgrowing, would be one of the important things. Everything I talked about in today's live would be applicable. Likely there's leaky gut if there is malassezia as well. Okay, so that's really the progression of thought that we want to have, is not what's the best way to treat malassezia, but why do I have malassezia is this first question. And then number two is, what is causing that to happen? And then number three is, okay, now how do I treat it? Okay. And I think that is a really healthy way of looking at it, where when we do things that way, we can really get to the root cause, as opposed to just literally throwing every supplement and every medication at our bodies, not knowing whether we're actually treating the right thing. Okay. All right. More questions about leaky gut and eczema, please go ahead and type into the chat box. We are talking about, is leaky gut fueling your eczema? How to identify and how to fix it. So please, if you have any questions, you can type into the chat box now, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions on this topic. All right. And if you don't have any other questions, I did write a blog about this. So definitely check out the blog at cleanbody.health/blog. And all of this is written down, everything we talked about today. I will be posting this on Instagram and on YouTube. So if you missed the beginning of this live and you want to check it out, check it out. Also, I do have a podcast called Live with the Eczema Doc. This will be edited and put on our podcast as well. And you can go back and listen to or watch all of the podcasts from the past. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. Again, happy to answer any and all questions on eczema in general. But today we are specifically talking about leaky gut and eczema. So if you have any other questions about leaky gut and eczema, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have any further questions and I missed it here, definitely just DM me and I'm happy to answer them at any time. All right. All right, everyone, have a great, let's see. Someone is asking a question. No, they are not, because I do not know what that question means. Okay. So if you have any other questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat. And again, happy to answer any and all questions. All right. I don't think I see anything else coming up. So thank you all for joining me today. And again, if anything does come up, definitely just DM me and I'm happy to answer any and all questions. All right. Have a happy Thursday, everyone. Bye-bye.